After their defeat at the hands of the Blood Angels, our noble Tyranid heroes attempt to flee the system, only to be cornered by members of the Emperor's janitorial staff. Can the Tyranids devour this threat, or will they face extermination?
Hello everyone, it's Trevor again, and welcome back to another 1000-point game of Warhammer 40k 9th edition. Before we get started, I'd just like to say thank you so much for all the support on my channel so far, and if you'd like to support what I'm doing even more, please check out my Patreon at patreon.com/TrevorGoesMeep. I'll be posting work-in-progress shots, bloopers, and you'll get access to my shiny new Discord server, so you can come hang out with me and some of the guests you see in my videos. And speaking of guests, today I'll be playing against my friend Leonard's Adeptus Custodes, but I'll let him tell you more about that.
Hey, I'm Leonard, and today I'm running a patrol detachment of the Emperor's Golden Janitors, the Adeptus Custodes nuts. I will be running my Custodes as the Dread host. The Custodes have a force rule called the Aegis of the Emperor, which gives a 6+ funeral pain save for mortal wounds suffered in the psychic phase. It also gives my infantry a 5+ invulnerable save, which is improved by 1 to a 4+, thanks to the other force rule, the Emperor's Chosen. First on the list is not a custodian, but an agent of the Imperium, Lord Inquisitor Hecator Exodus. I neither have nor like the official model, so I kit bashed my own, representing all his war gear. His power sword Arias, a masterwork bolt pistol, a psychic hood which adds 1 to deny the witch tests against psychers within 12 inches, and the Sanctic shield. The shield grants him a 4+ invulnerable save, adds 1 to armor saving throws, and gives him a spicy 5+ funeral pain save. In addition, I've also spent a command point on Arbiter of the Emperor's Will, a stratagem which allows me to give him an extra warlord trait. For this, I've chosen Psychic Mastery, which gives him 3 casts and 3 denies per turn, as well as access to 3 spells in addition to Smite. These spells are Dominate, Mental Interrogation, and Terrify. Next up is my warlord, a shield captain on a Dawn Eagle jet bike. Trevor kindly let me know ahead of the game that he'd be running Psychospam, so the warlord trait that I've chosen for the captain is Impregnable Mind, which lets him deny the witch as if he were a psyker. I've also spent another command point to make him a captain commander, giving him the trait Unstoppable Destroyer, which lets him pile in and consolidate D3 + 3 inches in any direction. He has the Auric Aquilas? A relic jet bike that grants him a 3+ invulnerable save, and is armed with an Interceptor Lance and Hurricane Bolters. In my elite section, I'm bringing a Contemptor Achilles Dreadnought. I've spent a command point on Eternal Penitent, which gives him an extra attack and allows him to reroll charges. The Guardian Eternal rule reduces incoming damage by 1, and he has an inbuilt 5+ invulnerable save, as well as a 6+ funeral pain. He's armed with the Achilles Dreadspear and 2 Lastrum Stormbolters. For troops, I'm bringing 1 squad of Custodian Guard armed with Guardian Spears, and 1 squad of Sagittarium Custodians armed with Adrastus Bolt Calibers. All of these guys have been modeled with Misericordias, but as I didn't have the points to pay for them, they effectively don't have them for the purposes of this game. Last on the roster is my heavy support, a Telemon Heavy Dreadnought. Generally, I'd always check before a casual low points game if your friends are okay with you bringing a Telemon, as it can be pretty cheesy to play against without enough anti-tank. Thankfully, not only was Trevor fine with it, he also has the tools to smite it off the board. So we're cool. Like the Contemptor, the Telemon has a 6+ funeral pain and reduces incoming damage by 1, but his invulnerable save is sitting at a pretty 4+. He's modeled with an Arachnus Storm Cannon, but I'll be playing it in this game as an Iliastus Accelerator Culverin. He also has a Spiculous Bolt Launcher, a Telemon Cestus, and a Twin Plasma Projector attached to the Cestus. And that rounds up my grand total of 10 models on the board for a 1000-point game.
Facing off against Leonard's elite army will be my group of expendable idiots and walking memes that I thought would be funny to bring. I'll be running my Tyranids in a custom High Fleet, which will give them 2 High Fleet adaptations. The first, Adaptive Exoskeleton, will give all my Termagants, Hormagons, and Gargoyles a 6+ invulnerable save. The second adaptation, Metamorphic Regrowth, will allow all my multi-wound models to regain 1 lost wound at the start of each of my turns. Starting off my army roster will be my Flying Hive Tyrant Shrek. I've given him the Adaptive Physiology Accelerated Digestion, which will allow him to regain 1 lost wound every time he kills an enemy model in the fight phase. He's also got Adrenal Glands to give him +1 to his advance and charge, and he'll be holding the Resonance Barb Relic, which will give him an extra cast, an extra deny, and +1 to all his psychic tests. He knows the powers Paroxysm, Smite, and the Horror. I've also given him Toxin Sacs for +1 damage on rune rolls of 6+ in the fight phase. For his weapons, he's going to be armed with monstrous rending claws and twin-linked devourers with brain leech worms. I'm really hoping that he can get a lot of work done in the battle later because I've spent a ton of points on him, but not quite as many points as I've spent on my Swarmlord Ash Ketchum. He is a cast 2, deny 2 Psyker, and he knows the powers Catalyst, Onslaught, and Smite. He also has a 4+ invulnerable save that improves to 3+ in the fight phase. And of course, he has his extremely useful ability, Hive Commander. In the shooting phase, this ability allows one Hive Fleet unit within 6 inches of the Swarmlord to move and advance as if it were the movement phase. And for my last HQ unit, I will be bringing my Neurothrope, Mojo Jojo. He is a cast 2, deny 1 Psyker, and he knows the powers Psychic Scream and Smite. Additionally, each time he kills someone using a Smite, he can heal a wound on a friendly Hive Fleet Zoanthrope within 6 inches of him. He also allows those Zoanthropes within 6 inches of him to reroll 1s during psychic tests. Now, I am aware that there was a bit of a kerfuffle about this rule because of a recent Tactical Tortoise video, which I watched because I like his videos. But Leonard and I have talked it out, and he thinks that the issue with this rule was obviously an oversight and that we should play with the rule as it was intended. If you have an issue with us using this rule today, you can drop a comment down below and I'll be happy to reply to you using only lyrics from Pitbull songs. Oh, and I almost forgot, the Neurothrope is also my Warlord. Backing him up will be 3 Zoanthropes. These lovely floating brains can cast 1 power and deny 1 power per turn. They know the powers Catalyst and Smite. Next up, I'll be bringing a squad of 10 Gargoyles. I'm bringing these guys for only one reason, and that is to execute a strategy that I like to call Bats to the Face. This involves charging the Gargoyles headfirst into the nearest group of scary looking enemy models that I can find. Is this strategy effective? No. But I really enjoy the idea of the Gargoyles just flying around in the face of the Custodes like, and then the valiant defenders of the Emperor are just going, God damn these fucking bats in my fucking face. I really hope I get to pull that off in this game. I'll also be bringing 1 squad of 10 Homogons, 2 squads of 12 Termagants each. These will all be armed with Flesh Borers, and I will also be bringing what is, in my opinion, one of the funniest units in the Tyranid Codex, a Biovore. So, Biovores shoot spore mines at their enemies. If they hit their enemy, then instead of doing a wound roll, they roll 1d6. On a 1, they inflict no damage. On a 2 to 5, the spore mine explodes and inflicts 1 mortal wound, and on a 6, it inflicts D3 mortal wounds instead. If it misses, however, then I get to set up a spore mine within 6 inches of the target and more than 3 inches away from any enemy model. This spore mine can't move or charge in the turn that I spawned it, but at the end of any charge phase, if the spore mine is within 3 inches of any enemy unit, then it explodes as per the rules I described earlier. And the best thing about Biovores is that you don't even need line of sight to shoot at your enemy. God, I love these things. We will be playing the mission Center Ground from the GT 2021 mission pack. There are 4 objectives, and we will get 5 points for holding 1 objective, 5 points for holding more than 1 objective, and 5 points for holding more objectives than our opponent. We've each picked 3 secondary objectives. Leonard has picked Grind Them Down, Assassination, and the mission-specific secondary Center Ground. I've picked Stranglehold, Assassination, and Raise the Banners. In addition, because this is a casual game, we've agreed that if one player loses all their models on the board, then the other player wins whether or not they're leading in victory points. All the large terrain on the board will be obscuring, meaning that they block line of sight, and they will also function as light cover, meaning that any models that are standing on these terrain pieces will get +1 to their armor save against ranged attacks. The smaller barricades will also function as light cover only. We deployed the units in our armies, taking turns, starting with Leonard. Leonard's put his Sagittarium on the left, controlling his home objective. His Custodian Guard, Inquisitor Hector Rex, and his Telemon Heavy Dreadnought will be hanging out together on the right. His Jetbike Captain will be hiding behind this little shed, and he's gonna spend 1 CP to put his Contemptor Dreadnought in Deep Strike. Meanwhile, I've put one squad of termagants and my hormagaunts close to my home objective. My second squad of termagants are gonna be on the other side of my deployment zone. My Biovore is gonna be happily hiding behind this wall, with my Hive Tyrant close by just to keep him company. My Swarm Lord is gonna very bravely hide behind this rock, and my Gargoyles are gonna be right in the front, ready to execute Operation Bats to the Face. Finally, the Zoanthropes and the Neurothrope are gonna be hanging out next to this rock. Alright, it looks like we're ready to go, so let's roll off to see who goes first. Leonard's won the roll-off, so we're gonna go to Adeptus Custodes, turn 1. In his command phase, he gets 1 command point. On to the movement phase, his Custodian Guard, Hector Rex, and his Telemon Dreadnought are gonna move up. His Jetbike Captain is gonna fly up next to the big bunker in the center. Interestingly enough, his Sagittarium are gonna move off their objective to try and get out of line of sight of any of my smites. In the Psychic phase, Hector Rex doesn't have the range or line of sight to cast any psychic powers, so we're gonna move directly into the shooting phase. His Sagittarium Guard are gonna shoot at my Gargoyles, 9 shots, hitting on 2s. Strength 5 against Toughness 3, wounding on 3s.
Oh, that's a bit of a shit roll.
Yeah!
What the f***?
1 wound!
What the hell?
AP -1, so I'll be using my 6+ invulnerable save. But no luck, and 1 Gargoyle is down. Next up, the Custodian Guard are gonna shoot at the Gargoyles too, 3 shots hitting on 2s. Strength 4 against Toughness 3, wounding on 3s. AP -1, so I'm using my invulnerable save of 6. And I make none of those, so that's 3 dead Gargoyles. Finally, the Telemon Dreadnought is gonna shoot all his weapons at the Gargoyles. We're gonna start with the Accelerator Culverin, 4 shots, hitting on 2s. Strength 7 against Toughness 3, wounding on 2s. AP -3, so I'm using my 6+ invulnerable save. And I make 1, so that's 3 dead Gargoyles. Now, the Telemon Dreadnought actually has more weapons that it could fire at the Gargoyles, but because of the way that I've removed the dead Gargoyles, the remaining Gargoyles are now out of line of sight. Looks like Bats to the Face is still a thing. I'm so excited. The Jetbike Captain is gonna unload his Hurricane Bolters on my Termagants, hitting on 2s and re-rolling 1s. Strength 4 against Toughness 3, wounding on 3s. AP 0, I'll be saving on 6s. Unfortunately, I make none of those, so that's 4 dead Termagants. Leonard's not gonna be charging anyone this turn, so let's move on to Tyranids turn 1. In my command phase, I get 1 additional command point. In the movement phase, my Gargoyles are gonna move up towards the Custodian Guard. My first squad of Termagants is gonna move up to the rightmost objective. I roll a 4 on the advance for my Hormagaunts, so they're gonna move 12 inches up towards the leftmost objective. Unfortunately, this doesn't put them quite close enough to control it. I roll a 1 on the advance for my Zoanthropes, so they're just gonna move up 6 inches. I roll a 6 on the advance for my Neurothrope, but I want to keep him shielded by the Zoanthropes, so I'm just gonna move him up behind the Zoanthropes. My second squad of Termagants is gonna budge up to their right just to get out of line of sight, but still within range to control the back objective. I roll a 4 on the advance for the Swarm Lord, so he's gonna move up next to the Zoanthropes. The Hive Tyrant is gonna fly 16 inches up in front of the Swarm Lord and behind the bunker. And my beautiful Biovore is gonna move up into that wall. In the Psychic phase, the Neurothrope is gonna try and cast Psychic Scream on the Jetbike Captain to get some mortal wounds. Warp Charge of 5. Leonard's Jetbike Captain gets +1 to deny, so he needs a 6 to deny this. And he gets it. The Zoanthropes are gonna try and cast Catalyst on the Hive Tyrant to give him a 5+ Feel No Pain. This goes off on a 6. And unfortunately, I don't get it. Next up, the Swarm Lord is gonna cast Onslaught onto the Hive Tyrant. This goes off on a 6. Leonard needs a 7 to deny this. And no luck, so the Hive Tyrant can now advance and charge. And finally, the Hive Tyrant is gonna try and cast Paroxysm on the Jetbike Captain to try and make him fight last. +1 to Psychic tests because of the Resonance Barb, so I'm gonna need a 4 for this to go off. I get a 9, +1, that's 10, so Leonard needs an 11 to deny this.
Oh!
Denied!
Denied!
Alright, so that was a pretty disappointing psychic phase, but let's move on to the shooting phase. My Biovore is gonna shoot at the Telemon Dreadnought, hitting on 4s. Alright, so let's roll to see how many mortal wounds this causes. So that's 1 mortal wound to the Telemon Dreadnought, and he's gonna roll his 6+ Feel No Pain. He fails it, so the Telemon is down to 13 wounds. Next up, the Gargoyles are gonna shoot at the Custodian Guard, hitting on 4s. Strength 4 against Toughness 5, wounding on 5s. And that is no wounds. I don't have anything left to shoot, but I'm gonna spend 2 CP on the stratagem Single-Minded Annihilation to make my Biovore shoot again, just because I find it kinda funny. Hitting on 4s, rolling for mortal wounds, and that's 1 mortal wound, so Leonard's gonna roll his 6+ Feel No Pain. Yes!
What the hell?
Oh my god.
That's so annoying.
So the Telemon is down to 12 wounds. Finally, the Swarm Lord is gonna use his Hive Commander ability to yeet the Hive Tyrant at the Sagittarium Guard. I rolled a 5 on his advance, so Shrek is gonna move 21 inches plus 1 for adrenal glands.
Oh. Wow, okay, I see how it is.
On to the charge phase, the Gargoyles need a roll of 5 to get in. And with a 6, they make it in. Bats to the face, bats to the face, bats to the face. Now the Hormigons are out of range of the left objective, but I'm gonna attempt to charge them at the Jetbike Captain to get them in range of that objective. I need an 8 to get in, and double 1s is kind of painful, but I really want to control that objective, so I'm gonna spend 1 CP to re-roll this. And this is terribly sad, but I roll a 7, and it's just not enough for me to get into engagement range, so the Hormigons are staying put. Let's charge the Hive Tyrant at the Sagittarium Guard, and he is definitely in. I'm really hoping I can kill these guys and get out of there as soon as possible. And in the fight phase, we're gonna resolve this glorious Bat on Custodes action. 3 attacks from the Gargoyles, hitting on 4s. Strength 3 against Toughness 5, wounding on 5s. And what did I expect, really? Alright, let's see if the Hive Tyrant can kill the Sagittarium Guard. 4 attacks from his claws and 1 attack from his tail, hitting on 2s. Strength 6 against Toughness 5, wounding on 3s and re-rolling wounds for the claws. AP 0 on the tail, so Leonard's gonna be saving that on a 2. And he saves it. AP -3 on the claws, so Leonard's gonna be using his 4+ invulnerable.
Oh!
And would you look at that, he saves all of them. So this is not ideal, to say the least. Okay, now the Sagittarium are gonna fight back, hitting on 2s. Strength 5 against Toughness 7, wounding on 5s. AP 0, saving on 3s. And that is definitely not a 3, so Shrek has flown in there, done no damage, gotten punched by a Sagittarium, and he loses 1 wound. What a performance. After fighting, the Sagittarium Guard are gonna consolidate 3 inches around the Hive Tyrant, but still in contact with him to get closer to the objective. Alright, and now the Custodian Guard are gonna fight back against the Gargoyles, 9 attacks, hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s because they're close to the Bike Captain. Strength 6 against Toughness 3, wounding on 2s. 6+ invulnerable save. I make only 2, so all the Gargoyles are dead. And you know what? I'm gonna say that was worth it just because I find the bats to the face strategy funny. So that's the end of my turn, and guess what? I forgot to raise the banners again. Isn't that lovely? Leonard scores 3 VPs for Grind Them Down because more of my units died than his units during this round. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that that was not a very good round for me, but let's see what happens in Custodes turn 2. In his command phase, Leonard gets 1 command point, and after his consolidation move, his Sagittarium are controlling his home objective again because they have objective secured, so he gets 5 victory points. In his movement phase, he's gonna deep strike his Contemptor 9 inches away from my Hive Tyrant, so that's not looking too good. His Bike Captain is gonna fly on top of the center bunker, and his Custodian Guard, Hector Rex, and Telemon Dreadnought are gonna move over to the left. In the Psychic phase, Hector Rex is gonna attempt to cast Mental Interrogation on the Hive Tyrant. It's a warp charge of 6, but because he's close to the Hive Tyrant, he takes -1 to his psychic tests because of Shadow in the warp, so he needs a 7. But he doesn't get it. Next up, Hector Rex is gonna try and cast Dominate on a Termagant to make him try and shoot his friends. Warp charge of 6, but -1 to cast, so Leonard needs a 7. And no luck again! Finally, Leonard is gonna attempt to smite the Hive Tyrant. Warp charge of 5, -1 to cast, so he needs a 6. He rolls an 8, -1, so that's 7, and I need an 8 to deny. And denied! Man, both our psychic phases aren't the most effective things in the world, huh? On to the shooting phase, the Bike Captain is gonna shoot at the Zoanthropes using his Hurricane Bolters. He's now in rapid fire range, so he gets double the number of shots, hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s. Strength 4 against Toughness 4, wounding on 4s. AP 0, I'm saving on 3s. Oh god, that is an awful roll. I only made 1 save, so that's 2 Zoanthropes dead. Moving on, the Custodian Guard are now in rapid fire range of the Termagants, so they're gonna get 6 shots, hitting on 2s. Strength 4 against Toughness 3, wounding on 3s. Invulnerable save of 6. And no saves, so that's 2 Termagants dead. Next up, the Telemon Dreadnought is gonna shoot the Termagants using his Accelerator Culverin, 4 shots, hitting on 2s. Strength 7 against Toughness 3, wounding on 2s. Invulnerable save of 6. And that's no saves again, so that's 2 more Termagants dead. And then the Telemon is gonna shoot with his other weapon, the Spiculous Bolt Launcher, 5 shots, hitting on 2s. Strength 5 against Toughness 3, wounding on 3s. Invulnerable save of 6. And I get 2 6s, so 2 Termagants are dead. Moving on to the charge phase, the Contemptor Dreadnought is gonna charge the Hive Tyrant. Leonard's gonna spend 1 CP on the stratagem Golden Light of the Moirides. This will allow him to roll 3d6 and discard the lowest dice when he charges the Contemptor. He needs a 9 to get in, and after discarding the lowest dice, he's in. At this point, Leonard got really excited because he felt it looked really cinematic, so we stopped to take some pictures.
Oh baby.
Alright Leonard, as long as you're happy.
I'm so happy, dude. I feel like this is Warhammer.
This is Warhammer.
Okay.
So Leonard's Bike Captain is within 5 inches vertically of the Homogons, and he's really close to them horizontally, so we're gonna count it as he gets a guaranteed charge into engagement range. We're also gonna go ahead and let him do his pile-in move right now. He gets D3 plus 3 inches because of his Unstoppable Destroyer trait. Finally, the Telemon Dreadnought is gonna attempt to charge around the Sagittarium Guard to punch the Hive Tyrant in the face. Leonard needs a 6. And unfortunately, no luck.
Brother, I am pinned here!
On to the fight phase, the Bike Captain is gonna fight the Hormagons, 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s. So Leonard's gonna re-roll those 2 1s into another 2 1s. Strength 6 against Toughness 3, wounding on 2s, re-rolling 1s. And Leonard's just gonna re-roll that 1 into another 1! Man, our luck is off the charts today. AP minus 3, so I'm gonna be saving with my invulnerable save of 6. And I make 1, so that's just 1 Hormagon dead. Leonard's Unstoppable Destroyer trait allows him to consolidate his Bike Captain D3 plus 3 inches in any direction, so after rolling for his consolidation, Leonard's just gonna pull back 5 inches away from the Hormagons so they can't fight back against him. Next up, the Contemptor Dreadnought is gonna fight the Hive Tyrant, hitting on 2s. With a staggering strength of 14 against toughness 7, wounding on 2s. AP minus 3, so I'll be using my 4+ invulnerable save. I make 3 of those, so that's 2 attacks going through. Each one is D3 plus 3 damage. Oh god, so that is 11 total damage going through, so the Hive Tyrant is dead. But let's see if he explodes on a 6. And that's a 6, so he explodes, dealing D3 mortal wounds to everyone around him. Alright, so we're gonna roll that now. The blue dice is for the Sagittarium, and the green dice is for the Contemptor Dreadnought. So that's 3 mortal wounds to the Sagittarium and 1 mortal wound to the Contemptor. Leonard has a 6+ feel no pain on the Contemptor, but he doesn't make it. So that is 1 dead Sagittarium guard and 1 wound going through to the Contemptor, bringing him down to 9 wounds. So at the end of his turn, Leonard scores 3 victory points for killing my Hive Tyrant as part of assassination. Losing my Hive Tyrant after him doing so little is definitely not ideal, but let's see what I can do in Tyranids turn 2. I get 1 CP at the start of my turn. In my command phase, I score 5 victory points for controlling 1 objective and 5 victory points for controlling another objective. In the movement phase, the Hormigons are gonna move up 8 inches to control the leftmost objective. I roll a 4 on my advance for the Zoanthropes, so they're gonna move 9 inches to the left to get line of sight on that Bike Captain. I roll a 3 on the advance for the Neurothrope, so he's also gonna move 8 inches to his left, again to get line of sight on the Bike Captain. And the Swarmlord also advances. I get a 6, so that's 15 inches, and he's gonna move up again to look right down at that Bike Captain. And this time at the end of my movement phase, I remember to raise the banners, so that's 2 banners going up on the 2 objectives controlled by Termagants. I remember! I remember! Okay. On to the Psychic phase, the Swarmlord is gonna attempt to smite the Jet Bike Captain. I need a roll of 5 for this to go off. And that's a 5, Leonard gets +1 to deny, so he needs a roll of 5 to deny this. And that is denied. I'm sure that's fine, I've got plenty of smites. Alright, so now the Zoanthropes smite the Bike Captain. The warp charge is now 6 because this is the second time I'm attempting to cast smite. I get a 4, but I really need to do some damage to this guy, so I'm gonna spend 1 CP to reroll that. And unfortunately, I don't make it. And now the Neurothrope smites the Jet Bike Captain, warp charge of 7, but I only get a 6. Alright, this is my last shot to get some mortal wounds on the Bike Captain. The Neurothrope casts Psychic Scream on him, warp charge of 5. Leonard's gonna try and deny this with Hector Rex. He needs a 7 to deny, but that is a 6, so I'm gonna roll my D3 mortal wounds on the Jet Bike Captain. 1 mortal wound, Leonard gets a 6+ feel no pain for wounds in the Psychic phase, but he fails it, so that's 1 mortal wound going through to the Bike Captain. So after 3 smites and 1 Psychic Scream, I've done a grand total of 1 mortal wound. Such effectiveness. And finally, the Swarmlord is gonna cast Onslaught on himself so that he can advance and charge at the Jet Bike Captain. I need a 6 for this to go off, but I only get a 4, so I guess the Swarmlord isn't charging this turn. Okay, so after that travesty of a Psychic phase, let's move on to the shooting phase. And you guessed it, the Biovore is gonna shoot at the Telemon again, hitting on 4s. And that's a miss, so I get to set up a Spore Mine next to the Telemon. And at the end of the shooting phase, since he can't charge anyone because Onslaught didn't go off, the Swarmlord is going to use Hive Commander on himself to run away to the back. At the end of my turn, I score 3 victory points as part of Stranglehold because I control 3 objectives and I control more objectives than Leonard. Leonard also scores 3 victory points for Grind Them Down because more enemy units than friendly units were killed during this battle round. Okay, so let's move on to Custodes turn 3. In his command phase, Leonard gets 1 command point. He also scores 5 points for controlling 1 objective. In his movement phase, he's gonna move his Sagittarium guard a little closer to the objective. The Custodian guard are gonna move closer to the Termagants controlling the rightmost objective. Hector Rex also moves up slightly just to get some line of sight, and the Telemon moves up too. The Contemptor is gonna move around the back of the shed, and the Jet Bike Captain is gonna fly up right next to the Neurothrope. In the Psychic phase, Hector Rex is gonna attempt to cast Dominate on the Termagants. He needs a 6 for this to go off. He gets a 7, so I need an 8 to deny. And that is denied. Alright, so next up, Hector Rex is gonna smite the Termagants. Warp charge of 5. He gets a 7, and I need an 8 to deny. But I don't get it, so that's D3 mortal wounds. And with 1 mortal wound going through, that's 1 dead Termagant. Alright, so on to the shooting phase. The Sagittarium guard are gonna shoot at the Hormigons, hitting on 2s.
Yeah! What the fuck, dude? I rolled 4 ones!
Strength of 5 against toughness 3, wounding on 3s. Invulnerable save of 6. And no save, so that's 1 Hormigont dead. Next up, Hector Rex is gonna attempt to get rid of that Spore Mine by shooting his bolt pistol at it, hitting on 3s. Strength 4 against toughness 1, wounding on 2s.
What ifs?
Oh my god! Okay, so after Hector Rex has failed to kill the Spore Mine, the Contemptor Dreadnought is gonna shoot at it instead. The Spore Mine is within rapid fire range, so the Contemptor Dreadnought gets double the number of shots with the Lastrum Storm Bolters, hitting on 2s. Strength 5 against toughness 1, wounding on 2s. Okay, so the Spore Mine doesn't get any saves, so it's dead. I've gotta say though, making people waste shooting on it is so worth it. I'm gonna bring more Biovores next time. Next up, the Contemptor is gonna shoot the Dread Spear at my last remaining Zoanthrope, hitting on 2s. Strength 8 against toughness 4, wounding on 2s. Invulnerable save of 3. I save 1, but the other one is 3 damage, so that's 1 dead Zoanthrope. Next up, the Telemon Dreadnought is gonna shoot his Accelerator Culverin at the Swarmlord, hitting on 2s. Strength 7 against toughness 7, wounding on 4s. AP minus 3, so I'm using my 4+ invulnerable save. Unfortunately, I don't make it, so that's 2 damage going through to the Swarmlord, bringing him down to 10 wounds. The Telemon is also gonna shoot his Spiculous Bolt Launcher at the Swarmlord, hitting on 2s. Strength 5 against toughness 7, wounding on 5s. AP minus 1, so I save on 4s. And that's 1 wound going through, so the Swarmlord is now down to 9 wounds. Now the Custodian Guard shoot their Guardian Spears at the Swarmlord, 3 shots hitting on 2s. Strength 5 against toughness 7, wounding on 5s. And that's no wounds. And finally, the Bike Captain is gonna shoot his Hurricane Bolters at the Neurothrope, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s. Strength 4 against toughness 4, wounding on 4s. Saving on my invulnerable save of 3. And amazingly, I only miss 1, so that's 1 wound going through to the Neurothrope. On to the charge phase, the Custodian Guard are gonna charge the Termagants. Leonard gets an 8, so those Custodian Guard are definitely in. The Bike Captain is so close that he's definitely in with the charge. Leonard's just gonna roll his pile-in move of D3 plus 3. So the Bike Captain is gonna pile in towards the back of the Neurothrope. On to the fight phase, the Custodian Guard are gonna fight the Termagants. But before that, I'm gonna use 1 CP for the stratagem Caustic Blood. This means that every time a Termagant dies in this fight phase, I will roll 1d6, and on a 6, Leonard's Custodian Guard are gonna take 1 mortal wound. Alright, so 9 attacks hitting on 2s. Strength 6 against toughness 3, wounding on 2s. Invulnerable save of 6. And I save 2, so that's 3 Termagants dead. I'm gonna roll my Caustic Blood d6s. But unfortunately, there's no 6s, so that's no mortal wounds going through to the Custodian Guard, and that's 1 CP wasted. Alas. Next up, the Bike Captain is gonna fight the Neurothrope, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s. Strength 6 against toughness 4, wounding on 3s. And rerolling failed wounds, AP of minus 3, so I'm using my invulnerable save of 3. I fail 1, and that's D3 damage. So that is 3 damage on the Neurothrope, bringing him down to his last wound. And now, fasten your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen, because the Termagants are fighting back. 2 attacks, hitting on 4s. Strength 3 against toughness 5, wounding on 5s. But that's no wounds. So that's the end of Leonard's turn. Let's move on to Tyranid's turn 3. At the start of my turn, I get 1 command point. In my command phase, I score 5 victory points for controlling 1 objective and 5 victory points for controlling 1 more objective. I also get an additional 1 victory point for the banner that is still raised on the second objective. Unfortunately, because Leonard controls the objective down here, the banner on that has been broken. And also, the Swarmlord and the Neurothrope both regain 1 wound because of Metamorphic Regrowth. At the start of my movement phase, Leonard spends 1 CP to use the stratagem Tanglefoot Grenades. He's gonna use this to reduce the movement characteristic of my Swarmlord by d6 inches until the end of the movement phase. And would you look at that, he's reduced my movement characteristic by 6 inches so the Swarmlord can only move 3 inches. My Hormagaunts are gonna pile on to that objective, and they're gonna raise a banner on it. On to the Psychic phase, the Swarmlord is gonna smite the Custodian Guard. I need a 5 for this to go off. I get an 8. Leonard is gonna deny with the Bike Captain who gets +1 to deny, so he needs an 8 to deny this. But he fails, so that's D3 mortal wounds going through to the Custodian Guard. Alright, so 3 mortal wounds. Leonard's gonna roll his 6+ feel no pains. And he makes none of those, so that's 1 Custodian Guard dead. Next up, the Neurothrope is gonna smite the Bike Captain. This goes off on a 6. I get a 7. Hector Rex is gonna attempt to deny, he needs an 8. And he denies it. Okay, so the Neurothrope is gonna cast Psychic Scream on the Bike Captain. This goes off on a 5. That is a 7, so Leonard needs an 8 to deny. And he gets it again. And finally, the Swarmlord is gonna try and cast Catalyst on the Neurothrope, which will give him a 5+ feel no pain. This goes off on a 6. And no, so it's looking like that Neurothrope is about to be in for a world of pain. On to the shooting phase, the Biovore is gonna shoot at the Sagittarium Guard, hitting on a 4. And that's a miss, so I get to put down another beautiful Spore Mine between the Sagittarium Guard and Hector Rex. And finally, the Swarmlord is gonna use his Hive Commander ability to move again towards those Custodian Guard. On to the charge phase, the Swarmlord is gonna charge the Custodian Guard. So he's definitely in. On to the fight phase, Leonard is going to use 2 CP for the stratagem Arcane Genetic Alchemy. This means that the Swarmlord is only going to be wounding those Custodian Guard on a 4+. In response, I will be using 1 CP for the stratagem Voracious Appetite to let the Swarmlord reroll all failed wound rolls. 6 attacks from his sabers and 1 attack from his tail, hitting on 2s. Everything will be wounding on 4s, re-rolling all failed wound rolls, and those rolls of 6 will mean 1 mortal wound each going through to the Custodian Guard, so that's 3 mortal wounds. AP 0 on the tail, so Leonard's gonna be saving that on a 2+. He saves it. The sabers are AP -3, so Leonard's gonna be saving those with his invulnerable save of 4.
Okay. Oh my god,
Save
everything
all.
was saved.
So that's just 3 mortal wounds going through, which means that 1 Custodian Guard is dead. Alright, so now that last Custodian Guard fights, and instead of fighting the Swarmlord, he's gonna choose to fight the Termagants. 3 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, invulnerable save of 6, and no saves, so those Termagants are dead. I also consolidate my Swarmlord towards the Custodian Guard. And now the Neurothrope is gonna fight the Jetbike Captain, hitting on 4s, Strength 4 against Toughness 6, wounding on 5s, and no wound. Alright, you did your best. Now it's time for the Jetbike Captain to fight back. 5 attacks, hitting on 2s and re-rolling 1s. Strength 6 against Toughness 4, wounding on 3s. Invulnerable save of 3. I fail 2 of those, and the damage on these is D3. Now the Neurothrope only has 2 wounds left, so no matter what Leonard rolls, he is dead. And now the Bike Captain consolidates D3 plus 3 inches, so he consolidates 5 inches towards the Termagants. Alright, so that's actually the end of my fight phase, but I'm gonna spend 3 CP to let the Swarmlord fight again and kill that Custodian Guard, hitting on 2s, wounding on 4s and re-rolling all failed wounds. So that's 1 roll of 6, which gives me 1 mortal wound, and he's gonna be saving the rest on his 4+ invulnerable save. And that is 2 fails, so the Custodian Guard is dead. So at the end of my turn, because I killed that Custodian Guard, I control 3 objectives, which allows me to score 3 victory points under Stranglehold. Leonard scores 4 victory points for assassination since he killed my Warlord, and 3 victory points for grind them down since more enemy units were killed than friendly units during this battle round. So things aren't looking super good for me, but maybe I could just squeeze through, so let's move on to Adeptus Custodes turn 4. At the start of his turn, Leonard gets 1 command point, and he scores 5 victory points for controlling 1 objective using his Sagittarium Guard. On to the movement phase, Leonard moves his Contemptor Dreadnought closer to those Hormagaunts, he moves his Telemon Dreadnought closer to the Swarmlord, and he moves his Inquisitor Hector Rex towards the Swarmlord as well. On to the Psychic phase, Hector Rex is going to try and smite the Swarmlord. This is a warp charge of 5, but he takes -1 to cast due to Shadow in the Warp, so he needs a 6. He rolls an 8, -1, that's 7, so I need an 8 to deny. But no luck, so that's D3 mortal wounds. And the Swarmlord takes 1 mortal wound, bringing him down to 9 wounds. On to the shooting phase, Leonard's gonna spend 1 CP on the stratagem Blood Games Veterans for his Telemon Dreadnought. This means that for the rest of the phase, an unmodified hit roll of 6 will successfully hit and wound the target no matter what. So he's gonna shoot the Accelerator Carverin first, hitting on 2s, Strength 7 against Toughness 7, wounding on 4s, Invulnerable save of 4, and I save it. Next up, 5 shots with the Specular Sport Launcher, also hitting on 2s. So that hit roll of 6 is going to be an automatic wound, and the others are going to be wounding on 5s. So I'm going to roll my 4+ invulnerable save. I save 1. Oh, and I also roll my save for that automatic wound. And I save that too, so that's just 1 damage going through to the Swarmlord. And now the Telemon is going to shoot with a Twin Plasma Projector, 2d3 automatic hits. So that's 5 automatic hits, Strength 6 against Toughness 7, wounding on 5s. Oh gosh!
That was a pretty shit roll. Okay, that's alright.
Next up, Hector Rex is going to shoot that Spore Mine, 1 shot hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s. Alright, and there goes that Spore Mine. Next up, the Sagittarium Guard are gonna shoot at the Swarmlord, hitting on 2s, wounding on 5s, 4+ invulnerable save. I save 1, so that's 2 damage going through to the Swarmlord, bringing him down to 6 wounds. Next up, the Contemptor is gonna shoot his Dread Spear at the Hormagaunts, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, invulnerable save of 6. I miss both, so that's 2 dead Hormagaunts. Next up, he's gonna shoot his Lastrum Storm Bolters, 8 shots because he's in rapid fire range, hitting on 2s. Strength 5 against Toughness 3, wounding on 3s. Invulnerable save of 6. I fail 3 of those, so that's 3 more dead Hormagaunts. And now the Bike Captain is gonna shoot his Hurricane Bolters at the Termagants, 12 shots, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s. Strength 4 against Toughness 3, wounding on 3s. Invulnerable save of 6. And I make no saves, so all my Termagants are dead. Alright, so on to the charge phase. The Contemptor Dreadnought is gonna charge those Hormagaunts. Leonard needs a 7 to get in, and the Contemptor automatically rerolls his charges. But even after the reroll, he doesn't make it.
Brother, I am pinned here!
Now we're gonna say that the Telemon is automatically in because he's so close, but Hector Rex is gonna try and make his charge. Leonard needs a 4, and he's in. On to the fight phase, Inquisitor Hector Rex is gonna try and fight the Swarmlord. 4 attacks, hitting on 2s. Strength 5 against Toughness 7, wounding on 5s. Invulnerable save of 3, and I fail it, so Hector Rex has actually done 2 damage to the Swarmlord. Now the Telemon is gonna fight, 5 attacks hitting on 2s. Strength 16 against Toughness 7, wounding on 2s. Using my invulnerable save of 3+, I miss 1, so that's 4 damage going through, and that means the Swarmlord is dead. But does he explode on a 6? Alright, so that's D3 mortal wounds to both Inquisitor Hector Rex and the Telemon Dreadnought. D3 mortal wounds on Hector Rex. That's 2 mortal wounds, and Leonard rolls his 5+ feel no pain. He makes 1, so Hector X takes 1 damage, bringing him down to 5 wounds, and D3 mortal wounds on the Telemon Dreadnought. Just 1 mortal wound and Leonard rolls his 6+, feel no pain, and he gets it, so that's no damage to the Telemon. Alright, so the Swarm Lord is dead, and with that, I'm pretty sure I can't win based on victory points or by killing all of Leonard's models, so I'm gonna concede. And with that, Leonard wins! So thank you all for joining us, we really hope you enjoyed this battle report. Thank you to Leonard for playing against me. Thank you also to my friend Brendan for turning up to be our referee for the match. And a huge thank you to my girlfriend Kara for helping us film this battle report, because without you we couldn't do this. I'll be adding Leonard into the Discord server and Brendan and Kara are already inside. So if you want to hang out and chat with us, please head on down to my Patreon at patreon.com/TrevorGoesMeep so you can get access to our Discord server, as well as bloopers and outtakes from this video and many more to come. I'd also like to give a shout out to Fast Forward Media for giving us lighting and filming tips for the start of this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.